Okay, welcome back to Serger 102. You've learned how to thread the serger, and now you're ready to start doing some projects. Normally when this class is live, we will do a hooded hat. I don't have a sample here, but like a puppy hat or something with ears on it that goes ahead and velcros to the front. But that one would take a little long. And we do I'm gonna lean over, a jester type hat. And then we also do the beanie, and a long slouchy beanie like this one, where I can fold a cuff, or you can even make a tighter beanie, where you can go ahead and get it nice and snug to the head, or even like this little square hat, where it just has a slight droopy ear, but fits right on the head. And these are some things that you can make with the serger and the Baby Lock Zest. So I have both machines set up. Some of the equipment that you will need is, if you remember on the last class that we did, and I talked about the benefits of the rotary cutter, and we mentioned that there was a 60 millimeter one. This is the big boy. So when we look down at the counter, at the table, in the cutting table in a moment, you will see all three sizes.
Already there.
Oh, already there. So you will see all three sizes. The smallest one is for fine detail cutting and for like delicate fabrics and for precision maneuvering. The mid-size is pretty much, the 45 millimeter is pretty much general cutting use. Also, it comes in a ergonomic handle one. And then this one, which is best for thicker fabrics, such as fleece, would be the 60 millimeter. And so these guys will go to the side, and I'm not going to be using them, and I'm going to be using this. Today also, we will be needing a pair of pinking shears. This will be to finish off the inside of our beanie. And we will need clips. So here's the silver clips I told you about from Daiso. Here's what the bags kind of look like. The bags look like this. And then also I have my color ones. And just to show you that there's a little bit of variety. We'll leave that on the floor. And then I just got these little spring clips from Wish. So I was actually going to try some of these out today. And these are just little itty bitty ones. And they were under $5 for like 50 of them. And they took forever to get here, but that's okay. I had plenty of other clips to work with. The other things that we're going to need is, you can see, is our beanie patterns. These plexiglass beanie patterns, we have a small, so we have a medium, we have the small adult, we also have a large adult, and then we also have a child-sized one, medium, and then someone had gone ahead and cut a wooden one, so for the shorter-sized beanie. Now all of these beanie patterns, we can look directly at the counter now, so that you can see all of these beanie patterns. For example, we'll have the regular length, and then it'll also have the note for the long and floppy. So basically, and they also have the instructions where you need to have it on the fold, and also the direction. Basically, here's the selvage on the fleece, so you want to be in the same direction as that selvage. And you can see here the same directions on the small, and then also on the medium. And this placement line is basically where you would fold in for this regular length beanie. And one of the things that you might have is a piece of fleece that has no selvage on it. I'm in the system. Okay. No, you're good. You're good if it's just right on there. So what if I have a piece of fleece where I don't have a selvage on it so that I can identify the direction that I need to go? So fleece is a two-way stretch. So it's going to stretch along, if I'm looking here, where you can see the selvage is here, and you can see here, see how where's the stretch. And then here is where the stretch is. When I stretch here on the edge, it hardly moves. And then when I stretch here on the edge, same thing. Now the other trick to this is knowing how those stretch is when you see this selvage here, you can see how it kind of curls this way. On this piece of Blizzard fleece, this is the front, okay, or the outside. On Blizzard, it doesn't really make a difference because it's going to pill either way. So it's a little bit different than anti-pill, which has a little bit more of a fluffy texture here, which you want on the outside, and then it has on the inside, you can see how it's not so fluffy. This is the side on the inside is going to pill. But if you didn't have that selvage to identify the direction, and if you didn't have a difference in texture, then you would be able to see that when I pull this way with the selvage, it wants to curl towards the front. If I'm pulling along the stretchy part, and if the top, it wants to curl away. So if I'm looking at it this way, and if I'm stretching and the stretch curls towards me, I already know that that's the back. And this is the front, okay? So Blizzard, you can see kind of looks similar on both sides. So I would do the same thing. If I'm looking at it here, I'm stretching on the stretchy part. Okay, good. This stretch is stretching away from me. It's curling away. So I know that if I go over here, and it's stretching towards me, so then I know that this is the top of it. Let's see, wait a second. Wait, stretches away, stretches towards me. Yes, so this right here is the top side that I want to have on the outside. That's the way to look at that. If you're looking at printed fleece, you can see how the print, these monsters here, are much brighter and sharper. And then on this side, you can see how the color is a little bit duller, and the monsters are fuzzy. They're just a little bit not as sharp. So I already know that this is the inside. And so these are some pieces that I've already pre-cut, because you're going to see how quick, basically what I've cut here, pre-cut, 1, 2, 3, 4. These took me about 30 minutes to pre-cut. And so, and you'll see how quickly it takes to stitch these together, because once you get going, you can make a whole bunch of these. If you're bored in a weekend, you can end up with 30 of them, and so on. Now, one of the main things that we need to notice is that on this finished hat here, on the finished hat, we can see that I have the stretch, all right? And this way it doesn't stretch. Well, I want that stretch so that way it can fit on my head. And so if I put the hat down this way, it's not going to have much give. It's going to stretch the wrong way. That is why you want to be in the same line as this selvage here. So this scrap I would not be able to use because the stretch is in the wrong direction. So this scrap is a scrap. So that'll go to, yeah, this would be like baby beanies if I wanted to make those. So if I wanted to do something like this one, you can see how I just cut a piece on the fold. And so like I've got this one already shaped together. So this would be literally this square right here. So here's my handy dandy ruler for that type of hat. And you notice I have this guard on here. Well, that's because this is a big giant blade and my fingers do not like to make contact with the blade. So every time that you finish with this blade, get in the habit, close it. Because if you've got blades open like this laying around, You stick your hand somewhere, you drop it. If you're barefoot, that will slice your feet. If you grab it incorrectly, you will cut your hands. And these blades, you will have to get stitches. So I have a little piece right here. I could probably cut this one. Let me see if I have enough here for this child size. Oh, just a little bit. It'd be a little narrow one for a kid size if I stitch it. And so, huh? Skull cap. Skull cap? Yeah. So for this child one, since I'm just doing a straight hat on this one, I just want to make sure that I have, I just want the width. So since I want that straight, this is not a beanie shape. This is going to be that funny little square hat. So I'm not really concerned about the beanie cut. Now we're going to go ahead and cut a couple pieces of beanie fabric so you can see exactly how to use and lay out this, this pattern. So I have here a piece of fabric. This I already know is the outside because the way it curls. This is the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it down, and I'm going to fold. This is also a little irregular, and you can see how I've got some not so regular areas. So we're going to make this one a medium. Well, obviously the fold is not going to be on this side. The lovely thing about this plexiglass pattern is, oh, there. So easy to go ahead and put it on the fold. And these patterns, if you're a member of the Makerspace, are available on the, which drive?
They're in Creative Arts Sewing Patterns.
In the Creative Arts Sewing Patterns on the committee drive. So if you are laser certified, then you can go and cut your very own personal template, and you can
Creative Arts Sewing Patterns.
Yep, Creative Arts Sewing Patterns. You can cut your own personal pattern so you have your very own for your very own to use out of plexiglass over at the laser. So here I've stretched that out. Now notice how I kind of stopped. My blade's going to hit that plastic. If I keep bumping that plastic with the blade, I'm going to dull my blade. So here's where you can either use a marker and trace right there and clip with scissors, or you can see how it's just going to be a little V. So there. So I have a medium tie-dye green beanie here that's going to be a long slouchy beanie. So what if I want a short, a squatty beanie? Then I'm going to lay that out flat. I'm going to go ahead and, so there's where my beanie fits. You can even push it over closer to the edge so you have less. I'm going to go ahead and cut this edge off. This is where I want to square my edge. Now I'm going to bring it down to the regular beanie level. That's what this lovely little line is here for. And now I'm going to go ahead so there. And then I'm going to come here and dooch, dooch. There we go. So now I've got the shorter beanie. So this clear template is a wonderful piece of equipment. There are a couple of other templates, sewing patterns online, such as the mask, similar to the mask that I'm wearing. Close my piece. So the mask that I'm wearing, and then also the tote bag. There's a tote bag pattern, and then anytime we have, I think even the potato bag pattern might be on there, or even a pot holder pattern will be on there. Something that's real easy to go ahead and use as a template. The luxury of creating your own patterns. Now, last thing before we go ahead and start assembling some beanies, I've got this nice little monster pattern. Perfect for little kids, but maybe I want a specific monster to show up, because you see how on the beanie I have a seam line. So generally I tend to wear that seam towards the back, and then I have here the front of the beanie, and then with that being the back. So maybe I want to feature a monster right here on the front. So I'm going to look, I've got my stretch and I can see here. So I already know if I fold this in this way for kid size, I can maneuver. Like right now, I can see this red guy, this red monster there is going to be right in that center on that fold. So let's see if he falls on that fold for the child-sized beanie. Child medium. Yep, if I want him there, or those other two. Maybe I want to push that green guy a little bit further over towards the front. So I'm going to look where my fold is going to be. That is right there on there. Good. So I'm going to make sure that that's nice, and we're going to make this one a little slouchy beanie. So this guy, his face is going to be, his eyes are going to be in there. And then if I flip over here, this guy's going to be at the front. And those three, the orange and the orange monster is going to be there. So you can actually kind of position your fabric. And I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. Yeah, I'll put that one here. So I've got this one maximizing this edge, which is going to get serged. So when I'm starting to get more and more pieces of fabric that are coming up, that means I'm getting flat spots on my blade, probably from bumping too close to the plexi. So I've considered cutting lines such as this one has the line cut in there so that you can kind of slide through. I would need it just to be a smidgen wider, just because I don't know how well that would go ahead and work for my bigger blade. So that's also an idea to experiment with when you are cutting your pattern. If you have let me turn it over this way so you can see. You can see how they had their lines go all the way down so that the blade is stopping on that point where I stopped. So I've got this locked in place. So when this beanie opens, you can see I've got full-size monsters here on the front for a kid who's going to wear this. So before we walk over to the serger and start serging this, I'm going to show you how this is going to go ahead and get assembled. So I'm going to open it up. So remember this. Remember the finger song. Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Open the doors and there are the people. That's how you're going to think about this pattern here. So I've opened it completely up. Now I'm going to close the doors. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put some green clips here. You color-coded clips. This is the part I'm going to serge first. Okay, so this is the part I'm going to serge. And if you're wondering, oh my goodness, how is that going to go ahead and work? Well, you're going to see the magic happen here in a little bit. So I'm going to prep a couple of them real quick, because you're going to see how fast us serging this is going to go ahead and take. And we are going to have a bunch of hats here real quick. Huh? Nah, I'm not going to hold to the color coding. Let's try these ones that just came in from Wish. We'll see how they go. Now, the main reason that you will want to use clips with the serger is, if you recall, there is a cutting blade that finishes, that gives us this finished edge. And you can see it right here. So it cuts off that fabric and it finishes that edge for us. Okay, this one's already set, so I already know that I need to just do this side, and I need to do this side for that little square hat. Same thing. This side and this side. One of the things I'll do, which I'm not necessarily going to do with this one, I'm just going to use white on all of these, is I will have my cones set up where I will, if I was just doing white, I would only sew all of my white hats right now. And then I would switch my cones out to black. If I wanted these darker colors, like on that blue, then I would switch to all of my dark hats in the way of production. Okay, if we're going to do this, so. Do you want to make this square one for Tim? Sure. Okay, pass that one back. So you already know which edges because they're already clipped to make, unless he wants a green fuzzy.
I probably prefer blue.
Yeah, there. So basically, it took me 30 minutes or so to cut all of those using the rotary cutter and the template. And now you can see here, it's taken me, 5 minutes to kind of just fold, open the doors, close the doors, and get them clipped into place so that I know what I'm going to stitch up first. And you're going to see how quick we are going to production. Basically, we're making a bunch of these so that in a weekend, oh my goodness, I've got this scrap fleece and I forgot to make presents for the family gift exchange. So I cut up all my scrap fabric, and as you know, I do not buy yardage unless I have a specific project. These are all remnants. And what have we learned about remnants at Joann's? Is if fleece happens to be on sale at 50% off for regular fleece, and then you go and you find remnants of fleece, that fleece in the remnant bin, you get 50% off of the current price, which would be 50% off 50%. So be careful, because you will end up with a crap ton of fleece. So now I've got all these prepped together with clips. These are going to go together. You're going to see how quick these are going to go together. So we're going to walk around to the serger. I have, now I've got the serger here with just the regular deck, okay? If I was feeling a wild hair, go ahead and hand me the other deck, Paul. Here at the Makerspace, I have this lovely little serger table that Paul made when before we got those killer deep tables, where the tables you can drop the serger on the table. And these serger tables are nice because then everything can stay on the level. It's not falling off. Remember that our chain, we want to go ahead and chain out to at least to this, to right over here to the edge. And what we're going to do, and you're going to see how is it that we're going to go through all of these really fast. In this case, I'm going to chain piece a lot of these. So chain piecing means that I'm going to do one side, And then I might be able to just jump over to the next side. I'm not cutting the thread. I'm just going to keep on going and then go to the next one. You're going to see how this is going to be speedy. So right here on the serger, there's some little lines that are right here that where you can go ahead and put your fabric out to the first line, second line, or third, and that's basically your kind of like your seam allowance. But there's the blade right there. The blade is right here, so it's going to cut off right here at this deck. Now, so that because I want fabric, you can see how this is all uneven right there when I jumped or skipped. So I want that to be trimmed off. So I'm going to put these to this second one right here. Okay, and you're going to see a little stack of scraps starting to fall off over here. So I've lifted my pressure foot. I'm going to drop my foot. I've got my fabric in front of my blade, and now I'm going to go ahead and serge. Yep. And then I've got my clip off. And I'm going to go ahead and go on to this side. I'm going to get a stack of clips over here. Lift. So main reason, and we've had this happen, for using clips is that blade, if it lands on top of, if it were to cut through a metal pin that you forgot to pull out, then trying to find the blades locally if we need to replace them. The area place charges like $60 for a set of blades, whereas I can get them online for a lot cheaper, just with a longer time for shipping. So we do have backup blades already because we did lose a set of blades. Once those blades get damaged, they will basically gum your fabric, and you'll kind of clog your machine. Now this one here is going to be a little bit different because this is the square hat. So I'm not going to be able to do a curve. So I'm just going to go first. So that was my only different one. We're going to come back to that one a little bit later. But you can see how quickly it kind of fit in. Now, if you start to notice, look how there is some buildup of lint that's starting to go ahead and show up in there. I'll take this stuff here and throw it in the trash. I've got lint, and I had a paintbrush around here a moment ago, so it's floating around. So basically, I would want to go ahead and kind of dust that lint off, just kind of, you're fine. So, just pull a little bit of that lint out with the paintbrush. If you start getting too linty, you could start having some issues with your stitching and or pulling, and you don't want that. And we are on the last hat over here on the top. So we're going to just stitch up a bunch of these, and then we're going to do the curve. So now you can see when I pull these aside and show you, they're all chained together. So is the lower camera, the one that's looking at the side, not working? It's frozen. Okay, well, the camera that would show you, camera that would show you is kind of rebooting, but you see how they're kind of all chained together. So I'm going to take it over to the table so that you can see them. I'm going to go to the I have to slip my shoe back on since I prefer to use the foot pedal with my socks. It's just easier for me to feel. So is the whole system rebooting? So if we look at the table, you can see that all of my pieces here are basically chained together like a flag. And I'm just going to grab my scissors here. Now this part, I want to make sure that I'm leaving, some space on the edges. Are you touching something on there?
That was when I clipped the camera back into the holder. I kind of clamped the power button.
Okay, so right here on this little corner edge, I left some thread over here, and there's a reason, because this chain, I could either weave it back in a little bit later, or I could just go ahead and do a quick knot, and this will keep the chain, see how I'm getting there? This will keep the chain from unraveling. So it'll take some practice, but you will eventually get those knots so tight that you can barely see them. So that's the part where you need to have a little bit of tail on your chain on this part. So I only need the knot on this end over here, the part that comes off to the fold. So see how there's a fold there? This center section here doesn't need to have a knot on it. I can go ahead and clip it, or I can just leave it alone and see how I'm folding the hat together. And here's where I get, this is going to get, when I serge over, is going to get taken off. So I'm not worried about that. So I am trying to get this, and you can see right here, since I've got one on each side, the serged edge here on each side, when I'm going to go through the machine, I want one to go this way and one to go this way. That way the seam sits right in the center. So the hope, and you can see on this one here, you can see one is stitched this way, and actually this one is a little bit further over but stitched in the same direction. But when we look here, you can see how it was off center just a little bit. And that's not bad, but you will get to a point if you're doing something really tight where you will get it right on line, and boy, that's fantastic. I couldn't quite see it in here, but you can see how it lays flat on that. It lays flat right in there, and this one's a little bit off, but this one's like right on it. So I'm going to try and get that so I can even clip one in one direction, one in the other. So if I'm going this way, this way. And you'll start to feel which direction feels best when you're putting them through the machine. So meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put a clip right there on those two. But you see how that one is naturally there? Then I'm going to go ahead and let this lay here and follow the edge. And I'm going to use one more clip. You can use more clips if you'd like. If you're not quite, I'm okay with this because I can manage that. So if you're still beginning on this, because the fleece kind of sticks to itself just a little bit. So I'm going to put a second one over here. That will help keep it even. So now I've got this curve. And I'm going to do that with all of these. If this gets a little bit too difficult, I can just clip that and lay it flat. Put one here, boop. And then, so this is something that you can do, this production style. You can actually, if you've got enough clips, you can get this. This is one way of doing production style. So I've got these, so I'm going to be able to do all curves at one time. And I'll go back to knotting these later. So I can do that while I'm sitting in front of the television, listening to Netflix, binging on something. And that way I can just tie knots. That's the tedious part.
Or have your boyfriend.
Or have your boyfriend who sits there with you and comes out and it's like, here, well, while you're sitting here, instead of watching me sew, why don't you tie these knots? And when he starts tying those knots and sits there for a couple hours with you sewing, you know he's a keeper. So this square one, I don't have to do anything to at this point in time other than tie the corner knots and trim those, because this one just has to be, the brim just needs to be trimmed on that one. Or if you don't want a brim, then you'll want to tie this knot, and that hat could be done. Because fleece does not unravel like cottons. You could just, if you've got the knot, you could technically say, okay, it's done. But if you want that brim, we're going to do that a little bit later, so you could check and see how this fits. So I'm going to put that one to the side because we're not doing that one anymore. And so now opening and on the curve. Yeah, can you see already kind of a hat shape starting to show up? And what are we like on time, Paul?
Still got a half hour.
Okay, and how long have we gone in?
You're at 40 minutes.
Okay, so 40 minutes. All right, so I'm just watching to see how much time it takes to get some of these hats done. So we're at least going to get the production part done, and then we'll finish off one or two of them. But this way you've seen it repeated, and you'll be able to make these hats on your own. Over here with the Serger and the Baby Lock Zest. If you're not sure how to thread the Baby Lock Zest, if you look for the potato bag class online, you will see some of the basics on getting the zest set up if you forgot how to do the bobbin, or if you've I'm gonna have clips all over the place, considering I left my other clips over by the side of the serger. So Usually you should take your clips with you. You should bring them with you when you come to this side of the table. But you can check online for the potato bag class. I believe it's on YouTube, and it's also in the Creative Arts. Was it also in Creative Arts, Paul?
It's on YouTube. I don't think they keep the video.
They didn't keep it locally? Okay, so they put the video on YouTube. So Dallas Makerspace, Creative Arts, how to make a potato bag.
It's just in the regular Dallas Makerspace.
It's okay, so it's in the regular Dallas Makerspace section on YouTube. So
I posted on the Creative Arts Facebook group, but it's YouTube. It's just Dallas Makerspace.
okay, Dallas Makerspace on YouTube. So that way you can take a look over there. So this class will also post on YouTube as well, and but you'll have some references because all of these we're using the same machines. Basically, the project classes I teach will be utilizing the Serger and the Baby Lock Zest, so that way you can become more familiar with them, and then you can feel helping to gain confidence so that you can jump into the big multi-pattern pieces. This is nice easy pattern because it's only one pattern piece, and this is also a good practice to help you get used to sewing gentle curves, and this is this curve, not concave, convex. Okay, so this is the convex curve. When we do the puppy hat, we have the puppy hat's a little bit more of a challenge, and we usually do that one in the class. That is, and in that class, the live class, you'll make 3 hats. So, which would be the puppy hat, the beanie, and then the jester. So, and we make the puppy hat first so that you practice with convex and concave curves on the serger. Coming back over to the serger, Paul. All right, so I've got all of these hats over here to the side, and they are ready to go. I'm making sure that I'm not knocking over a tripod since I am surrounded by cameras. I'm going to grab a quick cough drop there. So this curve here, I'm going to start up here at the top on the fold is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to gently guide and just gently kind of just turn this piece through the cutting blades, and I'm going to end up leaving a tail off of the end. Okay, so this is a good practice curve to do. So I'm going to lift up, get in position, put the fabric where I want on my, for how much cast off I'm going to have. I'm going to pull these little threads this way. I've got this one facing me, the one on the bottom facing the other direction, you know, going towards the machine. Now I'm going to gently let it go. Making sure that that's even. Now, I'm not going to go super fast over this lump because now we're going to go through basically 4 thicknesses of fabric. So I'm going to take it a little bit slower when I'm going through that section. I'm not pushing the fabric. I'm letting the feed dogs do the work. All I'm doing is steering the ship. Going to my next one. Once again, I'm chain piecing. Basically, I'm not clipping. I'm actually going a little bit close because I know that that edge, that last piece, it's going to get sewn under. It's going to get sewn under, folded under, so I'm not even going to make a knot on that edge. The edge here, I'm not even going to make a knot on this edge, the very bottom edge, because it's going to fold up for the brim. I'm trying to maintain using this guideline here that is on this side right here. You remember there's 3, you can hear them. There's 3 lines. I'm still using that. That's going to keep me from and you can see how my fabric is staying together right here. So it's going to keep me from leaving a hole. In fact, I'll make sure to do one with a hole so that the way you can see how to fix it. So I'm going to do this one. Oops, too close. So we're going to check it before we go to the other machine. Because we need to see some mistakes, because they'll happen. Don't be afraid of them. You have to remember, I've been sewing these beanies for a while. When I first got my serger, I was just moved up here to Dallas. Didn't have a lot of friends up here at the time yet because I was a recent relocated person for work. So I spent the first weekend with my serger. I made 35 beanies that first weekend. And then I made more and more. And then I switched over to blankets. And I've made scarves, blankets. So the first year, Christmas, everybody got beanies. Second year, everybody got infinity scarves. And then I started making pullovers. So all the nieces and the nephews got sleep shirts, fleece sleeping jammies, basically. And now I make a lot of blankets. And I use a serger and I sew fleece. So I'm checking now to make sure. So this one here we had already knotted. So I could go ahead and just knot this other end right here. Come on. Oh, I had a... Made this one a little too tight, not enough chain there. There, got it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the, so this one here I've got knotted here, I've got knotted here, I've got knotted here. And wow, this is starting to look like a hat. So we're going to check that other one that I intentionally made holes in, and then we're going to finish off a beanie so that way you can see it finished. I got to find the one I made the holes in. Basically, I'm checking the inside to make sure I don't have any gaps. So before you stitch the bottom, it's easy to stitch, to check, to make sure that there was nothing. And I think even though I intentionally sewed tight, I still sewed it tightly closed. So I didn't make a hole. But basically, if, for example, on this one here, that I had left a hole, so there's a little gap still sitting in there, I can just go ahead, start over here, cut that chain off, cut that piece off. And then I would have fixed that edge. So real quick, I'm going to knot this guy, and then we're going to jump on over to the zest. So I've got that knot. I've got this knot. And I'm just doing these up in advance so that I don't have to do anything else, that this hat will be ready to go ahead and give to someone as I'm walking out the door. Okay, I got it. I got the knot in there. It's a far away knot, but it's still in there. Okay, so now I've got, these are looking more and more like hats, okay? So when I jump over here to the zest, and let me get the, okay, you're already there, so let me just scooch further over. Okay, so I've already threaded this. This machine is already threaded up and ready to go. So we've got 2 beanies that are ready to finish up. I can scooch over just a little bit more. Well, just for me. There, that way I'm not like shoving my elbow right into that camera. Okay, so I've got my machine already threaded. That example is on the potato bag. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a zigzag switch. Am I on something here? I don't know what I'm missing a foot. I'm missing probably a rubber pad because I should not be doing this.
Put down. Oh.
Better. The hat. I think I'm missing a rubber foot on this, so I have to look for a rubber foot because I should not be rocking like that. Okay. Nope, too high. Better. Okay, so this one had just a little bit of, it still wobbles, but it's not as bad. It was better with the hat. Okay, so I'm going to switch this over to a zigzag stitch. I'm going to bump this over to 4, bump this over to 4 on my length, and then this is what I'm going to switch to. Better. Okay, this is what I'm going to switch over to the zigzag, and I want it to be as wide as possible for this. I'm going to go ahead and fold my, I take that part off. Okay, took that off of the deck. Okay. And I've taken that off, and I'm going to fold this up. Okay, that's about even right there. So I can go ahead, and if I want to make sure that I'm not going to lose that fold, I can go ahead and at least clip to make sure that my fold doesn't shift. Okay. When I'm in here, I'm going to make sure one's going in one direction, one's going the other, so it fits like a nice little puzzle piece. I'm going to start over here by the seam, and I'm using the deck right here. This silver metal piece on the deck, I'm using that as my edge, so that way my brim stays even and my stitch stays in the same position. So where is got that piece of thread, got my bobbin thread out. I'm going to do my stay stitch. Once again, I'm letting the feed dogs do the work. I'm just guiding the fabric. You don't see my hand behind there pulling, because that's going to go ahead and cause issues with the tension of your machine. We don't want to do that. So I am just guiding and letting the feed dogs do the work. You can see I'm now coming up to where I started. Okay, and basically you would do this for every single hat. And since we are coming up on time, we're going to finish this one. I'm clipping off my threads. Last thing I'm going to do is, Paul, could you grab me those, the pinking shears? Thank you. We're going to get the pinking shears, because I like taking the pinking shears right here up to the edge, and you can see how I'm just going to cut off this. I'm going to trim this, and I'm holding it, letting the fabric fold up, and you can see how and this is for me. You don't have to do it, but I happen to like it. It gives it a more finished, for me, gives it a more finished look. The pinking shear, it mimics, or it looks very similar to the zigzag stitch. It's not going to fray because it's fleece. You don't, but I like the way it helps, the repetition. And remember, I didn't have to tie the serge stitch into a knot because I stitched over it. So it's already secured, so this isn't going to come unthreaded because it's going to stop with the stitch. So I've got my threads out of there. You can see how that, oops. So I've got all my stuff knotted, get my little lint out, and then this is ready to wear. And it's a slouchy beanie. Or if you've got lots of hair, it fits, all your hair fits in there. So that's it. That is a completed beanie. And,
1 hour.
huh?
1 hour.
That's a completed beanie, but we already have, if I'm tired, and we've already got beanies that are ready to be just finished off. Oh, grab me the hat, the square, the blue square. No, that one that I'd already cut. So this one here, this blue square, same thing. I'm going to check to see how it fits real quick on my head. Oh, this is a kid size. So, this is nice and snug. So I'm only going to do a short one. So same thing with this little blue hat, and this one's going to also have the white on it. And once you start getting more comfortable with this, you'll notice you're using less and less clips. So this one, I've got a certain spot on the machine. And same thing. The reason you use a zigzag stitch is when you are, which camera? There we go. When you are pulling this on and off in your head, see how the zigzag, it stretches. So the zigzag is a stretchy, it can be a stretchy stitch, and it moves with the fabric. So you can, of course, for this class, I just went ahead and used the white thread for everything. I'm not really particularly concerned. You can go ahead and organize like I told you you could by color and change your threads out. Yeah, that one was on black. And so where you do your darker colors, sew your darker colors with your, sew your darker colors first, or I would sew all nothing but white hats tonight, and then tomorrow change my machine colors, rethread the serger to blue, black, or navy, you know, whatever color I wanted to sew next. And I've done that before, serged by color and production colored it, production sew. So this little hat is ready to go. I'm going to point the little points out, and this little hat is ready to go on someone's head, the little bitty hat. So that's 2 hats that we were done, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more that are pretty much almost done in an hour with half an hour of pre-prep. So that's it. Thank you very much, and you can look forward to seeing another one of our serging classes. If you have other questions or anything like that, please feel free to leave us some comments. This is the 3rd stream that we've done, and we're only going to improve with these classes. So if there was something that you didn't see or needed questions of in the production or the process, please leave us a note. Thank you, and you guys have a safe weekend.